We are very grateful to be able to present to you now an exceptional keynote speaker. Alba Tiley is originally from Canada. She holds a Bachelor in International Business from the University of Ottawa and a Master in Strategic Management from Rotterdam School of Management. Alba is also a recipient of the RSM Distinguished Alumni Award and an alumna of the World Economic Forum Global Shapers. Alba leads the Sustainable Antibiotics Program at Centrion Pharmaceuticals, where she works on sustainability and health issues such as antimicrobial resistance and environment, improving access to life-saving antibiotics and appropriate use. She represents Centrion Pharmaceuticals in industry platforms and within multi-stakeholder initiatives. Internally, she drives sustainability throughout the organization by coordinating local sustainability champions and sharing the impact of the global effort across the company, which perfectly ties in with RSM's mission to be a force for positive change in the world. Dear Alba, may I invite you on stage?
Before I start, I want to congratulate each and every one of you. For some, this journey might have been easy, and for others, it might have been hard. But regardless, congratulations to you all. I've been given the honor to be part of this special day by the team here at RSM. Our connection and the support of the sustainability team and the alumni organization are one of the reasons I'm here today. So thank you. Given this very unique opportunity with you, I thought, rather than talking about all the great things that might await you after your graduation in real life, I thought the best advice I could share with you would be to tell you actually about my mistakes. Now, in 2008, I started my master's here in Rotterdam. The RSM website showed the beautiful Erasmus Bridge and endless blue skies. So we know half of it was true. But Rotterdam appealed to me. It was a European city with a mix of modernity and history and a very vibrant, diverse community. Maybe you too saw the same. But most importantly, though, I saw a city and a school with a drive and hunger. It really gave you the feeling that something was happening here. Now, going through the course list, I came across the Global Business and Stakeholder Master. You probably know it today as the Global Business and Sustainability Master. I was so intrigued by the whole positive impact on society bit. I really didn't see the fit with the other courses that included your typical staples like finance and marketing HR. So I was just so curious about this class. Now remember, the timeline is back in 2008. The economic crisis was in full swing. The most serious financial crisis since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Lehman Brothers had collapsed and the European debt crisis was on its way. The main political concern was to save our economic system. Let's just say that climate change and social justice were not exactly prime areas of concern. So come early September, I'd enrolled in the Strategic Management Master. Justifying this decision to myself, I said, how could I ever get a job studying the sustainability stuff? Don't worry. The idea of having a job in the private sector which could have an impact, usually reserved for an NGO or a government, seemed far-fetched at best. And with that decision, I made my first mistake, well, at least here in Rotterdam. I chose the wrong degree. Instead of trusting my instincts, I made the safe bet. For me, strategy sounded so interesting on paper, but it turned out that the course, at least at the time, didn't focus on what were the key issues of our time, like how can we sustain our lifestyles on a finite planet. Throughout my master's, I interviewed for various internships, where I was inevitably asked which direction would I take. Would it be consultancy, or would it be finance? What exactly would I do with this strategy degree? After one particularly painful interview with a major Dutch bank, thank you.
Thanks.
After one particularly painful interview with a major Dutch bank, which started with an A and ended in Rho, a kind senior person pulled me aside and asked me whether I thought I was in the right place. His junior, the person who'd been interviewing me, was far less patient, and we had both left the interview feeling very dissatisfied and confused. Confused because we both clearly had a different understanding of what strategy meant. And I began to realize that perhaps I would not be able to fit into a traditional expected role, and that maybe I was dreaming about a job that didn't exist. Today, after 10 years away from the city, I work in Rotterdam, actually just down the street. My role at Centrion Pharmaceuticals is as Sustainable Antibiotics Director. And the way I explain this to my mother-in-law is by saying that I make sure that antibiotics continue to save lives and keep our company in business. Our company produces antibiotics and sells them worldwide. Pretty straightforward. The business started at a small scale right here in the Netherlands in nearby Delft. A group of Dutch microbiologists working in secret during the last months of the Second World War produced penicillin, one of our best-known antibiotics. Before antibiotics, if you got something as simple as a paper cut, it could actually kill you. Our health system relies on antibiotics to fight infections, so that things like cancer treatments, cesarean sections, organ transplants are made possible. Yet, the more we use antibiotics, the more resistance we create. Here in the Netherlands, you practically need to be on your deathbed to get an antibiotic. But in many other countries around the world, this is not the case. Antibiotics are overused in animal farming, and finally, manufacturers don't always treat their waste properly when they're making the antibiotics, which means that antibiotic residue goes out and pollutes the environment. All of these things add to the resistance. So what do I do in this issue? So my job is to advocate for higher sustainability standards by working together with the NGOs, governments, and other pharma companies. Higher standards are a win-win situation. If we have safer, more responsible manufacturing, then we're all better for it in the end. And what's in it for our company? Well, this is the first time in history that having a sustainability edge can be a part of your business model. How can companies deliver value on dimensions beyond just the final financial dimension? This is what I wondered while writing my master's here at RSM. My thesis was on the value of partnerships between sectors, public-private partnerships, or PPPs. How do sectors come together to collaborate on something that creates value to society? I figured maybe I could finally use Porter's models for something that I found interesting. So I set out to interview companies who were active in this field. It was a small pool, but I discovered that the people who were engaged were really committed. I interviewed executives at Unilever and at Philips, and also a company called DSM. Not being from the Netherlands myself, I'd never heard of this company. It's a business-to-business company that produces ingredients that go into all kinds of products, from vitamins to automotive to paint. An email address on their website led me to the person in charge of DSM's partnership with the United Nations World Food Programme. He agreed to my interview. Where at the bank interview, I was lost. Here, I found my inspiration. He told me how this company was working with the UN to develop new food products that addressed malnutrition. I'll give you an example. So, rice is eaten by a large part of the world's population, but often is not very nutritious. Together with the World Food Programme, DSM developed a way to jam-pack a single kernel with all the nutrition that a person needs. After the interview, he asked me if I was looking for an internship or a job after graduation. Yes, of course, I said, with a promise to follow up. I remember clearly how it felt going home that day. For the first time in a while, I felt like I'd resurfaced. After months of studying finance and strategy and worrying whether I would fit into a job that I would not really like, I saw for the first time that I did not have to settle. The job I wanted might not exist, but there certainly were people out there working on the issues that mattered to me. So I called my parents and friends to tell them this great news. Finally home, I opened my old white MacBook. You might wonder, what program did I use to save this magical interview? None other than the well-known recording app GarageBand. I opened the app to replay and transcribe the interview. Only when I hit play, there was just silence. I was filled with dread. Surely there must be a backup somewhere. So I Googled, I phoned friends, and I spent 2 days trying to recover this recording. But eventually I had to face the fact that it was gone. I found myself at a crossroads. Should I call this executive back and explain that I had accidentally lost his 2-hour interview and ask him to do it over? Or should I just never contact him again and pretend that none of this ever happened? After many sleepless nights and with nothing to lose but my pride, I decided to write him an apology. His response? You can call me, but I only have 5 minutes. So I did. I pieced together the interview along with some notes I'd previously scribbled. I submitted my thesis, and I eventually landed that job at DSM. A job that had never existed before, and neither, by the way, did the one I have now. So when I was asked to talk to you on this day when you leave RSM, this is what came to my mind. It actually doesn't matter which masters you chose, or whether you chose the right one or the wrong one. You will make mistakes, but I can promise you one thing. The jobs of the future are not here yet today, and you should resist the temptation to believe people who tell you you must follow a set path. The lines are blurring, and the primary goal of business is not just about making money, as stated before. Companies have a broader responsibility, and so do we, to others, but also to ourselves. We can't wait for opportunities to come up. RSM has provided us with the tools we need to help create them. It doesn't hurt to be a bit lucky and meet kind people in your journey. I wish you all the luck in the world in your next step, even if you stray a little bit along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Alma.